Incendiary art is all about witnessing. I usually tell my students to listen for the voices that they're not hearing, to find work to draw upon. And when I think about the states where we're immersed in violence of varying degrees all the time, one segment of that violence that particularly affected me was the loss of lives of young African American men and women, usually but not always at the hands of the police. That was a seed for this book. And the voice that I wasn't hearing was the mother's voice. You see the mother twice during the process. Once at the beginning when someone comes to tell her that her son or daughter is gone, and again very briefly at the end of the process where the person deemed responsible for the death of their son or daughter is deemed not responsible. And then they disappear. And so I wanted to undisappear them in this book. It's called Incendiary Art because I was thinking of the role of fire in so many of our lives. And when I was a child when the riots happened after the assassination of Martin Luther King, and my entire neighborhood was burned down. And that's an image that's never left me. So that helped me when I got ready to name the book. I wanted something that was blazing through the poems, as it were. Incendiary art. The city streets are densely shelled with rows of salt and packaged hair. Intent on air, the funk of crave and function comes to blows with any smell that isn't oil. The blare of storefront chicken settles on the skin and mango spritzing drips from razored hair. The corner chefs cue pork, decide again on cayenne, fry in grease that's glopped with dust. The sizzle of the feast adds to the din of children strutting slant, their wanderlust and cussing, plus the loud and tactless hiss of dogged hustlers bellowing past gusts of pepper breeze, that fatty, fragrant bliss in skillets. All our rampant hunger tricks us into thinking we can dare dismiss the thing men do to boulevards, the wick their bodies be. A city strapped for art delights in torching them, at first for kicks, to waltz to whirling sparks, but soon those hearts thud thinner, whittled by the chomp of heat. Outlined in chalk, men blacken and curl apart. Their blindly rising fume is bittersweet, although reversals in the air could fool us into thinking they weren't meant as meat. Our sons don't burn their cities as a rule, born as they are, up to their necks in fuel. No wound of exit for Trayvon Martin. The body is secured in a blue body bag with medical examiner seal 0000517. Along with him inside the crackling bag are moonlight, shriek, and entitled groan of vermin. The child was never not secured, but was never secure. He was not apprised of the dangers inherent in the moving forward, so his traipse was conjured of averted gaze, perhaps a rapper's lisp, and the spit called rain. The grit of neon sugar works ravage behind his closed mouth. The body is secured in a blue body bag. The body is secure in a blues body bag. The body was crafted to absorb the blues. The body is viewed unclothed. The body is that of a normally developed black male appearing the stated age of 17 years, with a body length of 71 inches and body weight of 158 pounds. The body presents a medium build with average nutrition, normal hydration, and good preservation. Pause for the definition of a normally developed black male. Avoid the words tomorrow and upright. Rigor mortis is complete, and lividity is well developed and fixed on the posterior surfaces of the body. The body is cold to the touch post-refrigeration. Short black hair covers the scalp. The face is unremarkable. The black face so easily turns a given name to knives. It gobbles questionable meat drenched in red heat and hawks the slick black seeds of melons. It has yawning antebellum pleats and is never dark enough for newspapers. Its dance craze is the perp walk. Its favorite hangout is above the fold. It squints in a flashlight's probing shriek and slowly, oh so slowly, repeats its name. It chants in rebellion reverb. It chats in stereotypical. It is not at all dressed correctly for the job interview. It paints a harried onyx in the bushes behind your duplex. It was designed to specifically identify and reverse your wife. It can no longer hurt you. This particular face, markedly unremarkable, is still baby, not yet terrible, with veined big eye and buck muscle. There's no chance it will fit around your throat. The tree-lined suburb in your chest is safe for now. There are no fractures, deformities, or amputations. The external genitalia present descended testicles and an unremarkable penis. The buttocks are atraumatic, and the anus is intact. Once, a buyer would gingerly handle the penis of a potential purchase, foraging for heft, for hints of tree trunk, for a commercial cotton foreskin, for its ability to spew a thick black seed. But dead cancels commerce. Anus intact? Sigh. The ass of the dead boy was rigorously examined after closing hours. One of the thousands of things gingerly removed from its depths was the steamy, jack-booted foot of Florida. The entrance wound is located on the left chest, 17.5 inches below the top of the head, 1 inch to the left of the anterior midline, and 1/2 inch below the nipple. Further examination demonstrates the wound track passes directly from front to back and enters the pleural cavity with perforations of the left anterior fifth intercostal space, pericardial sac, right ventricle of the heart, and the right lower lobe of the lung. There is no wound of exit. A black boy can fold his whole tired self around a bullet. The cartridge is pinpoint of want, a textbook example of the smallest love. Some slugs are warmer than mothers. The bullet wants the whole of the boy, his snot and insomnia, his crammed pockets and waning current. The bullet strains to romance the blooded one in a way that grinds with lyric. The bullet swoons through his collapsing map, then comes to rest, and the boy simply ends his breathing around it. It does not matter if the boy has a mother. It does not matter if he has a gold mouth. Injuries associated with the entrance wound: perforations of left anterior fifth intercostal space, pericardial sac, right ventricle of the heart, right lower lobe of the lung, with approximately 1,300 milliliters of blood in the right pleural cavity and 1,000 in the left pleural cavity. The collapse of both lungs. A black boy's lungs collapsing. A mother picking up the phone. The same sound. That's my son collapsed there, my son crumpled there, my son lying there, my son positioned there, my daughter repositioned there, my daughter as exhibit A there, my daughter dumped over there, my son hidden away there, my son blue there, my son dangling there, my son caged there, my daughter on the gurney there, on the slab there, in the drawer there, my daughter splayed there, my son locked down there, my son hanging there, my son bleeding out there, my son growing frigid there, my daughter deposited there, my son inside the chalk there, my daughter being bagged there, my son on the slab there, my son crushed there, my son rearranged there, my son crumpled in the door there, my daughter's neck shrinking in the noose there, my son's left eye over there, my son as exhibit B there, my son behind the wheel there, my son under the wheels there, my son slumped over the wheel there, my son, my daughter, blooded and not moving in the doorway, on the stoop, down the block in front of her kids, just inside the barbershop, face down in the street, outside the bodega, inside the bodega, in the black alley behind the bodega, on the videotape a block from home, leaving home, hanging out at home, in the schoolyard, on the blacktop, in his bed, in her kitchen, in my arms, in my arms, in my arms. That's my son, shot to look thug. That's my daughter, shot to look more animal, shot as kill, shot as prey, shot as conquest, shot as solution, shot as lesson, shot as warning, shot as comeback, shot as payback, shot for sport, shot for history. That's my son not being alive anymore there. That's my child coming to rest one layer below the surface of the rest of my life there. Michael Brown was murdered by police in Ferguson, Missouri in 2014. His body laid in the street for hours. Incendiary Art, Ferguson, 2014. They should have left him there to be the center of his own altar. Shat upon, he would have flowered, his empty hands tucked, ass upended like a newborn. The lengthy streak of browning blood could be a sanctified walkway for the church ladies, for the pokers with their sticks, for the lawbreakers and abiders, for that new kind of worship. They should have taken advantage of those 14,400 seconds and thought it over for 14,000 more. How sobering it would be. Breathless icon as traffic circle. Every day, Chevys and livery cabs inching around the stain of him. Shriekers on the school bus, tasting his blossoming funk in their clothes, having long ago given up counting flies. They should have left his body steaming on the asphalt, while passenger side doors wrenched from 80 sedans, flaming barrels of garbage, charred shards of drugstore, and bare-chested boys, beautiful and bull's-eyed, blurred past in tribute. Black lives matter most. When they are in motion, the hurdle and reverb matter. The rushed melody of fist, the shudderings of a scorched throat matter. The engine that moves us toward each damnable dawn matters. They should have left him there as proof. Eventually, the embers would have died in his hair. In 1955, Emmett Till was abducted from his uncle's home in Money, Mississippi. He was killed, drowned in the Tallahatchie River. When his body was recovered, his mother insisted on an open casket at his funeral in Chicago. She wanted everyone to see what his white killers, as she said, have done to my boy. The picture of Emmett Till in his open casket was published in Jet magazine on September 15th, 1955. That child Emmett in that casket. Sometime the page was tacked, flush against plaster with a pearl hat pin, or jammed into a dime store frame with a glowing Jesus. In some kingly front rooms, its place was in the shadow box, propped on one ripped edge, or laid curly corner on the coffee table, smudged and eaten sheer with the pass around. In the kitchen, it was blurred by stew smoke or pot liquor blotched until somebody got smart enough to scotch tape it to the humming fridge, and the boy without eyes kept staring. Mamas did the slow fold before wedging the picture into their flowered plastic coin purses. Daddies found a sacred place in pleather wallets right next to the thought of cash. And at least once every week, usually on Sunday, after church, or when you dared think you didn't have to speak proper to that old white lady who answered the phone at your daddy's job, or when, as Mama said, you showed your ass by sassing or backtalking, the page would be pulled down, pulled out, unfolded, smoothed flat, and you had to look. Look. And they made sure you kept looking while your daddy shook his head, mumbling, this why you got to act right round white folks. Then dropped his smoke-threaded gaze to whisper, Lord, they killed that boy more than one time. Mama held on to your eyes. See what happened when you don't be careful? She meant white men could turn you into a stupid reason for a suit, that your last face would be silt, stunned in its skid and worshipped, your right eye reborn in the cave of your mouth. Look, she'd screech. You did. But then you remembered there weren't any pictures of you in the house, pinned high on the wall, folded up tight against the Lord, toted like talisman in wallet or purse. You'd searched, woe climbing like a river in your chest. But there were no pictures of you anywhere. You sparked no moral. You were alive. Incendiary art is about the ways, a good portion of it is about the ways that mothers of men and women who have lost their lives, how the mothers managed to fold themselves back into some semblance of an ordinary life. And this poem is later on in the mother's time, after the loss of her child, when she makes love again for the first time. The mother dares make love again after. I wake with dawn yawning an unbridled itch across the span of my chest, as if there is a lie that will die if it is not sung. I begin inarguably alone, raveled in unwashed sheets and cloaked in funk, so slantly rhymed I suspect its drift is what forces my eyes open. Unnerved by my own lazy arithmetic, I stink this way to stay lonely, to explain why old fingers won't remember the scarlet art of turning a man into moan and spectacular dust. I stink to stay vital, to bless my lumped body with a structure while I wallow in the want of a flapped mouth kiss or a dime store card crammed with plastic music, mailed by someone who knew me before my plummet, utter and south. Fall into my collapsing circle of arms because this Tuesday has spiraled wildly and led you here. Fuck me in the general direction of history. I will teach you to mourn with your whole damned face, to unreel a keening as crave becomes remember. The horrid moon splatters glow on these dirty sheets that still know me as saint and commands you to weep my life. And he stays dead for my father. You can convince your young body to slide on the cloak of savage, bare your teeth toward the clock and pretend you don't feel the hollow. Or you can slap your own face, winding back time, beating yourself witless until years blur and you convince yourself it isn't real. The hollow is not menaced by your trilling. It decides to take your body inside it. You pile on layers of woolens and fiction, trying to appeal to the hollow as it owns you. Everyone asks, why is your voice so drained, so moon? It is because you are feverishly slipping on mantras that should heal the hollow, but it just grows larger and you flail around inside it. It is shaped so stupidly like a father. You can't find your knees to kneel. The hollow will be damned if it gives you a chance to pray your way out, so you will yourself limp and succumb to damage. Passing days seal the hollow. Daughter, wear your father like a cloak. Flaunt the blue, the gone stink of him. Those woes are yours, crafted to reveal that you're hollow. Incendiary art, the body. I've nightmared your writhe, glum fists punching their way out of your own body. The blind stumble through the buckled vein of your throat as your nerve endings sputtered and blew. I've dipped my finger into a vaporous pool of your skin. The heat blessed your whole new self with horizon, square-jawed boy. With such potent intent, you blared illicit and just enough saint. Now, with so many northern days between us, you are much easier to God. But they are looking for you. They are wildly sloshing fuel across the landscape, and they are screeching your name. Today, one said, I sure would like to burn a black man alive. So yeah, you left us here with undulating acres of fools and that particular stank leg of gospel. You left us all this snuff, hawk, and proud little bowleg. You left their brains stunned by dairy and fat meat. You left us not much path, even after your body was that brief and beauteous torch. They seem to remember you fondly, and there are unstruck matches everywhere. The literary journal Prairie Schooner had a special issue devoted to the subject of sports, and I was asked to submit something. And instead of doing football, baseball, hockey, tennis, I decided to think about the sport of chasing men. And so this is a poem about the pursuit of an escaped slave. Runaway. First, somebody's got to run. There's no sport in it otherwise. Everybody needs to be drunk on sun first, then just straight drunk. And there will be rot-toothed cackling, dog-tired horses spewing snot, straps slashing gashes in dead air. But somebody has to run like he want to be in a place he can't see, like Jesus blew a whistle. The hunt needs a man who finally believes the murmured come-ons of that blaring star, who lingers a second too long in the red twist of a preacher's promise and thinks that being free just may be that muted flash at the end of his pointed finger. Over there, out there, over yonder, north, always north, always, always north, he chants, his whole body primed, egged on by a fleeting, luminous orchestra. But first, he's got to run. Everything he utters drips with a muddled, sugary faith. His first halting steps click into rhythm, and night lunges forward to scar him. Sometimes he is minutes gone, maybe hours, sometimes a day, before he realizes that all land is throat, that it swallows and swallows and swallows, then dribbles a dust that lies and calls itself light. The fear that he's on a journey that has already ended sparks the smell, the salt that just barely blues his skin. And the dog doesn't know why or what it hates. It just knows that Negro blur and the damn repeated spin of it. The hound's strained heart is everything, an old gray muscle gasping backbeat for a flailing rage. Fevering against the leash, it snorts the deep, sweaty bowl of the runner's hat, one thinned gray sock, an old work shirt. The cur quivers with what it was born to do. There's just no sport in it otherwise. Straining forward on their steeds, the hunters whoop, addicts for the chase, while that wily northern star spits its sickly light along the length of their quest, nudging the huntsman and their quarry to very different versions of free. I never read that poem anyway. Never read it. I honestly, I read it to myself after I wrote it to make sure it sounded okay, but I've never done it in a reading.
Worked with the rhythm of it, didn't it?
Yeah, I never read it before. And then I thought, God, I wish I had a longer reading tonight. I'd put this in.